A mechanic's journey through love's highs and betrayal's lows reveals his unyielding strength. My name is Dave, and I'm 55 years old. I own a garage, which is quite unique because I built it from the ground up. My journey began at 18, working under the guidance of my uncle. After 7 years of hard work and saving, I managed to open my own garage. Those first few years were challenging, but I poured my heart and soul into making it a success. Over 3 decades, it has blossomed into what you see today. Did I ever fall in love? Absolutely, with Jenny. Our paths crossed at an auto show while she was still pursuing her studies. We felt an immediate connection, exchanged contacts, and planned to meet up. Living in different cities meant our initial conversations were over the phone. It wasn't until a few months later that we met up again, and she ended up spending the night at my place. It was her first time, making it all the more memorable. Tragically, a few months later, Jenny faced the loss of her parents, and her ability to continue her education was at risk. Convinced she was the one, I stepped in to support her education with my savings. Overwhelmed with gratitude, she cried and embraced me. Fast forward 5 years, Jenny had moved in, started working as a lawyer with a local firm, and our bond had only grown stronger. On a beautiful Sunday hike, reaching the peak after 3 hours and overlooking the city, Jenny proposed to me, taking me by complete surprise. I accepted, and with a ring, she declared we'd be together forever. We married 3 weeks later in a quaint ceremony. For the next 2 decades, we shared a wonderful life together. We have 2 children, Maria, who is 19, and James, who is 18. Both are embarking on their individual journeys. Maria is pursuing her university degree, while James has found his passion as the lead guitarist in a local rock band. With the children grown and out of the house, I felt a deep sense of fulfillment and contentment with life. Despite never pursuing higher education and often being perceived as rough around the edges, I never let it bother me. However, around this time, I noticed a shift in Jenny. After 20 years of marriage, I thought I knew her inside out, her thoughts, her actions, and even her deceptions. Her recent job change about a year ago, which brought more money and prestige, seemed to coincide with these changes. Her new employer, a high-profile lawyer known for his courtroom victories, never sat well with me, though I never expected our paths would cross. After watching Jenny's behavior for around 3 months, I decided to confront her about her increasingly late work nights. Despite my generally calm nature, this conversation was different. Jenny had never seen this side of me. After about 20 minutes of intense questioning, she broke down and confessed to having an affair with her boss. My question to her was simple. Why? Her response was cutting. You're the same man I married 20 years ago. You haven't evolved. Your appearance is unkempt, you're rough around the edges, and you don't fit into my social circles. I desire better. Someone who matches me in stature. You're too agreeable, never taking charge or asserting yourself. I looked at her, perplexed, and asked, so you wish to end our 25-year commitment because I don't fit into your social scene, because I don't dominate or intimidate? You think I'm not a good husband? I've supported our family, ensuring both our children could pursue higher education. I played a pivotal role in your journey to becoming a lawyer, yet today, I'm deemed insufficient. Jenny then attempted to strong-arm the situation. You need to come to terms with the reality of our situation. I will be with my new partner and you must accept that. If you resist, I'm prepared to divorce you and strip you of everything you've worked so hard to build. I'll entangle you in legal battles until you're left navigating a never-ending loop between the courthouse and destitution. Your most cherished achievement, the garage you painstakingly built, will be lost. Be prepared for that. I reclined in my chair, incredulous. You believe you can manipulate the law to rob me of everything? She affirmed with a nod. I chuckled, good luck with that. And without letting her get another word in, I stood up and exited the home. The following day, I crossed paths with Jenny, but simply walked past her, heading straight to work. After my departure, Jenny reached out to her lover. Hello, John. You seem upset. What's wrong? Dave found out about us. He confronted me today, and I confessed everything. Damn, that complicates our situation. But it's not catastrophic. We've considered this scenario before. Yes, we've discussed it. Yet facing it was more painful than anticipated. After all, Dave and I share a history of 25 years, a marriage of 2 decades, and 2 children. What did you tell him? I stuck to the narrative we agreed upon. I didn't deny our affair. I'm terrible at lying anyway. I told him essentially what we planned, that I'm a successful lawyer who's been married to a simple mechanic for the majority of my adult life, a man who never sought to improve himself. I confessed that for once, I yearned to be with someone dominant, an alpha male, someone who stands as your counterpart, a man capable of leadership, unlike one who simply yielded to your desires at every turn. Exactly, but let's not undervalue him too much. He does own his business after all, and his craftsmanship has supported us well, ensuring our children's education and my own legal studies. Initially, our plan made it seem justified that I sought someone like you. Yet, when he highlighted the years of emotional and financial support he provided, my arguments felt somewhat insubstantial. Do you understand what I mean? So, did you lay out the whole situation to him? That if he didn't conform to the new reality, your law firm would support you fully through the divorce, ensuring he was left with nothing? Yes, John, I did. But it seemed as though he didn't give a damn about any of it. He was just in disbelief that I could consider ending things after all his dedication. I must admit it was painful. I tried to explain that I wasn't just throwing him aside. I believed I was entitled to something more. However, I don't think he grasped that. I don't want to lose him, John. Something more, you say? Jin, that's rather insulting. You've expressed your love for my attributes, mentioning they took you to places he hadn't in years. Didn't you tell me the intimacy we shared was unmatched? Yes, I did, John. But remember, my experiences were limited when I married Dave. He was always so tender. Your assertiveness and demands were entirely new to me, utterly captivating. Well, I'll keep captivating you, my dear. Your husband will have to come to terms with the fact that there's now more to you. In your life, he's no longer the only one in charge. I'm the dominant force here, and he needs to come to terms with that reality. Nevertheless, the thought of being the reason your 25-year relationship ends is unsettling to me. Here's my proposal. I'll draft some documents and pay him a visit at his garage later today. Just give me the address. What kind of documents? Whatever comes to mind. We'll use the usual tactics we employ on the unsuspecting. Legal notices to keep him away from you, me, and your residence. Orders to freeze the assets of his business. That's only the beginning. We'll flood him with legal paperwork he's ill-equipped to understand, merely illusions of authority. Your dear husband is about to learn firsthand who's in charge. Trust me, by the time I'm done applying pressure, he'll be eager to accept whatever crumbs you decide to offer him. I'm not sure you didn't see the look on his face this morning. At 2 p.m. that day, the self-proclaimed alpha made his way to my garage. Mr. Brown, may I enter? My name is... I'm well aware of who you are. Excellent. That simplifies things. I gather Jenny has informed you this morning about the ongoing situation between us. What she might not have explained is why you'll be inclined to accept it. May I just place my briefcase here? Thank you. You might not know this, but I'm the head of the firm where Jenny is employed. This grants me access to over 20 legal professionals, each selected for their impressive track record in court victories. More than half specialize in divorce proceedings, and I assure you, I won't hesitate to deploy each one against you. What I have here are documents prepared just this morning for filling. Let me give you a quick overview. Here we have a divorce petition, already signed by your wife. Next, an order to freeze your business accounts pending a settlement that involves selling the company. This document orders you to leave your shared home within 24 hours, and these 4 are restraining orders designed to keep you a minimum of 200 meters away from me, Jenny, her residence, and our workplace. Do you grasp the situation, Davy? I intend to entangle you in so many legal proceedings, you'll be immobilized. Eventually, you'll exhaust your resources to the point where you couldn't even afford the most inadequate attorney. And throughout this ordeal, I'll continue my relationship with your wife. That's life. Sure, you're physically larger and stronger than I am, but the era when brute strength dictated the order of things has passed. Intelligence has been the true power for quite some time. This doesn't have to escalate, Mr. Brown. We can maintain the current arrangement. I'll be with her when I choose, and you'll have your turn as per the existing arrangement of the past 4 months. Why stir trouble? Eventually, I'll move on, and she'll return to you. I've made my point. If you had been everything she needed, this confrontation wouldn't be happening. My suggestion? Accept the situation. Use it as a catalyst for personal growth. However, a piece of advice: assert yourself more with your wife. I managed to win her over because you didn't. Not because I wooed her with charm, but because I assumed the role of the leader and laid out the inevitable outcome. just as I've done with you. Are you done, Winback? It seems you, like much of today's society, have no real grasp of what being an alpha male actually entails. Shall I, a simple mechanic, enlighten you? Go ahead, cuck. Enlighten me. They say an image is worth 1,000 words. With that, I advanced a half step and delivered a forceful punch directly to the lawyer's face. The impact resulted in the satisfying sound of bone and teeth being forced out of place. John collapsed against the workshop's wall, a look of sheer disbelief on the half of his face still visible. Let's call that lesson 1. Before the pain fully set in, I hoisted John up, only to immediately bring him down again with a powerful uppercut to his diaphragm. Now, John was sprawled on the floor, gasping for air. Would you consider that lesson 2? As John began to recover, my steel-toed boot came crashing down on his outstretched hand, fracturing the wrist and several bones. A forceful kick to the chest, fracturing 3 ribs, momentarily quenches Dave's fury. Consider those demonstrations 3 and 4, and Mr. Alpha, it would be beneficial if you could refrain from whimpering. I'm attempting to impart some knowledge here. Also, you've managed to make me break a vow I made to myself back in high school, never to exploit my size and strength for aggression. I had intended to spare you from the fallout of Jin's decisions until you decided to flaunt the situation in my face. Even the most refined men have their limits. I placed my boot gently on John's neck, ensuring his undivided attention. Let's return to the lesson at hand. The concept of alpha male originates from the study of wolves. He is the singular leader who dictates the actions of the pack. He may not be the most intelligent or the largest, but he distinguishes himself as the most formidable and ruthless, ready to kill at a moment's notice. And you, my friend, are far from fitting that description. You might play the alpha in the comfort of your climate-controlled office, but out here, in the real world, you're just a minor annoyance. And calling yourself intelligent? That's debatable, especially since you arrived here without any backup, which wasn't very smart. Now, let's contemplate your options moving forward. The first path you could take involves going to the police. They might arrest me, or they might not. They could release me on bail, or perhaps they won't. They might charge me, or perhaps they'll find they can't. There are many uncertainties, John. The absolute worst-case scenario for me? A 5-year stint in prison, which I'd view as an intensive course in refining my ability to inflict harm, learning how to dispatch someone and ensure their disappearance without a trace. Then, upon my release, we'll reconvene for a discussion similar to today's. Alternatively, blowhard, you could view this as a cautionary tale, a harsh lesson in the consequences of meddling with another man's spouse. Now, get lost. I've got some tidying up to attend to. Courtesy of you, bleeding out, and for heaven's sake, soiling yourself on my impeccably clean workshop floor. Some alpha you are. That evening, Jenny reached out to John. John, I'm at the office, waiting. I thought you would have returned by now. Where are you? I'm currently in a hospital ward. Was in the emergency room for 3 hours. Oh my goodness, what happened? Were you in some kind of accident? No. I grossly misjudged your husband. I foolishly confronted him by myself. He's left me with a broken nose, a shattered left hand, a few broken ribs, and possibly a fractured cheekbone. I can't believe it. He's never shown any sign of violence before. Not that I was aware of. It's the truth. I'll show you the X-ray images if you need proof. I'm stunned. This doesn't sound like the Dave I know. Is there anything I can do to prevent you from contacting the police? We must admit we had a hand in provoking this. Despite what he's done, Dave doesn't deserve to be imprisoned for this. The police have already been here. I told them my injuries were the result of a hit-and-run incident. Your so-called gentle and loving husband warned me that my current state is merely an initial installment of what's to come should I decide to take legal action. The thought of facing further harm is something I can't afford. So, I've resolved to keep quiet about the whole affair. That comes off a bit cowardly. Sounds like you're scared of him. It's hard for me to wrap my head around this. Dave has always been the type to avoid harming even the smallest creature. Trust me, the fractures I've sustained are evidence enough. I'm just doing what's necessary to stay alive, Jin. I've got to hang up now. The painkillers they've given me are beginning to take effect. The following day, beside John's hospital bed, Jenny pleaded, John, you have to help me out. I spent all evening driving around, unsure if it was safe to return home. I attempted to contact Dave for reassurance, but he never responded. When I finally mustered the courage to go back, I found the locks changed and was unable to enter. I had no choice but to stay at my sister's. To make matters worse, I discovered this morning that our joint bank accounts have been drained and my credit cards are blocked. I need you to intervene. Could you have one of your divorce specialists at the office initiate the proceedings to have Dave removed from our home? Is it possible for me to stay with you in the meantime? No. No to which part? To everything. If I leverage firm resources for your benefit, it gives him a reason to target me again. I'm choosing the safer route. You're terminated, Jen. I'll add 4 weeks severance if you clear out today. And if you run into Dave, could you let him know you've been let go? Didn't you hear? I've been left with nothing. Without finances, employment, or your assistance, I'm starting off at a disadvantage. I apologize, Jen. You didn't witness the rage in your husband's eyes as he assaulted me. I'm simply taking the necessary precautions. You're a joke. Just yesterday you boasted about being the dominant male. Now, here you are, trembling in fear that my husband, who surpasses you in every respect, might be lurking around. The notion that aligning my life with you would be an upgrade is a mystery to me now. And your belief that I would ever genuinely commit to someone who betrays trust, as you have, is laughable. On that very day, Jennifer Brown found herself parked in silence by the roadside, her credit cards useless and her wallet empty. Eventually, her car would run out of gas. It was inevitable. I hadn't gotten around to disconnecting her mobile service. Or perhaps I was intentionally being harsh. She was en route to the city where her children had made their homes, hoping for sanctuary. Throughout the year, they had always responded to her messages within an hour. She had begun calling them just after 10 in the morning. Checking her phone once more, she found no replies. With a heavy sigh, Jenny grabbed her worthless purse, exited the vehicle, and, straightening her attire, she positioned herself by the road's edge, thumb outstretched for a ride. I observed her from a distance in my dilapidated van, a slight grin on my face at the sight of the solitary figure awaiting aid. I've never considered myself the dominant type, knowing full well that true loners never fit that category. It's the solitary hunters that are the apex predators. Pulling up beside her, her shock was palpable. She contemplated fleeing, but her legs wouldn't comply. Rooted to the spot in fear, I stepped out of the van and invited her in. We need to have a conversation. She entered. I directed her to commence the divorce proceedings. There will be no alimony, no division of my wealth. My possessions remain mine. Yours stay with you. Return all the jewelry I gifted you. The divorce reason is your choice. I'm indifferent. As long as you exit my life, supposed to divorce, you're to leave town and not return. Interaction with my children is permissible in my absence, should they agree to see you. Your belongings will be prepared for collection from our residence by 10 a.m. tomorrow. Ensure you retrieve them. Should they remain uncollected by 11 a.m., they will be discarded. Is my point understood? She affirmed with a nod. Inquiring about the timeline, I asked, when will the papers be ready? She mentioned a week's time, to which I insisted, ensure they're on my desk within 5 days. She gave a nod. My gaze lingered on her once more. She appeared utterly startled, as if she had encountered something unfathomable. With the smile, I told her to leave, and then I drove away. By 10:30 the following morning, she had collected her belongings. 5 days on, she came through with the divorce papers, citing irreconcilable differences as the reason. I couldn't help but chuckle. Several months down the line, I found myself unbound and free. It's a sorrowful admission that my marriage crumbled. It pains me that Jenny failed to grasp the essence of fidelity. It disappoints me that she doubted my ability to clean up and be the husband she needed. She never realized the danger she could be in, underestimating the potential harm from a man of my stature if he were to lose control. I would have been willing to fight for our marriage, to discuss our issues. However, she resorted to ultimatums. That, for me, was a bridge too far. I'm set on moving forward solo, and perhaps end my journey in solitude. After all, it seems the fate of the apex predator is to face the end alone.